I think it's fair to say that on the channel, I don't always get everything right. Guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be counting through every championship club and going over one person from your club who's proved me wrong so far this season. I had quite a bit of fun compiling this one together. Do get in the comments down below who from your club has proved you wrong so far this season. Before we do get into anything, make sure to leave a like if you do go on to enjoy, and please do subscribe for a bit of regular championship content. Also check out the Patreon, link to that is down below. Thank you so much to everyone that has signed up to that so far, having loads of fun over there on the Discord server, especially on a match day. It's really fun to get involved. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. Starting out with Bournemouth, and do you know what? It's Junior Stanislas who's really proved me wrong this season. Coming into this year, I had it sort of fixed in my head that their main front three would be Danjuma on the left, Solanke up front, and David Brooks playing off the right, with maybe Stanislas coming in every now and again, being that sort of impact player off the bench. But he's got more goal involvements than either of the other two wingers so far this season. I think thanks to a combination of, Danjuma picking up an injury when he did, David Brooks' form falling off, Stanislas has been a really key component for this Bournemouth side so far this season. He's made more starts for them so far this season than he had done in his previous 2 seasons for Bournemouth, and yeah, doing really well for them so far. Next up for Barnsley, I'm not actually going to go for one of their players, I'm going to go for their manager, Valérien Ismaël. He's by far and away blown all my expectations of him out the water. I thought that when they lost Gerhard Struber, they'd be really hard pressed to go and replace him, but Ismaël's just taken this Barnsley side from here, and they've completely skyrocketed since, up until this point now, where they are a serious top 6 contender. Should they get into the top 6 come the end of the season, Ismaël's got to be in line for like manager of the season. He's been absolutely brilliant for them so far. With Birmingham, I'm going to go for George Friend. I think that given his lack of game time for Borough last season, I wasn't all too sure on this transfer when it went through, but he's probably replaced that bit of experience and know-how into that Blues defence that they've been lacking ever since Michael Morrison left, to be honest with you. I think he has had a handful of really good games for Birmingham so far this season and definitely has proved his worth. Next up to Blackburn Rovers. I've got to admit, it's been Harvey Elliot so far this season. At the start of the year, I was sort of like, okay, let's see how he actually gets on during a full championship season. I still wasn't completely on board with the hype with Harvey Elliot, but he's been brilliant for Blackburn so far this season. There's no way I can deny that. 5 goals, 9 assists, 50 key passes so far this season. Only a handful of championship players have more than that. I think with a lot of people, the jury was very much still out on Harvey Elliot. At such a young age, how much of an impact would he actually have on the championship? But yeah, he has been brilliant. With Brentford, I'm going to go for Vitaly Janelt. I didn't know all too much about him coming into this season, but anyone that was going to, try and fill the boots of Christian Norgard for the majority of the season, I thought, good luck to you with how fantastic he was. But the fact they picked him up for 400k, and he's really done a solid job for them so far. Also has scored a couple of nice goals along the way as well. It's another example of Brentford's recruitment team being spot on, and yeah, really good performer so far for me. When it comes to Bristol City, it's Daniel Bentley, isn't it? At the start of the season, I made a goalkeeper ranking video. In that video, I didn't have Daniel Bentley in the top tier. I probably should have. He's been excellent for them so far this season, and yeah, I'm sold on him now. Alright, he is one of the best in the league. Cardiff City, I'm going for Kiefer Moore. Now, I rated Kiefer Moore at the start of the season, but I didn't realise how good he could actually go on to become. I thought that Cardiff had a good maybe 10 to 15 goal a season striker on their hands now. He's already got more than that with 16 goals to his name, but it's not just the goals, it's his all-round performances. He's picked up 10 Man of the Match awards so far this season. Only Emi Buendia has as many as that in the Championship, joint with 10. Coventry City, I'm going to go with Kyle McFadzean. He was the one player coming into this season at the start of the year where I looked at their team and thought that, okay, in the back line he might be the weak link there. Obviously, he has played at the Championship level before with Burton and MK Dons. In those years, a couple of performances spring to my mind when I think that, oh, he had a clanger there, he's getting older now, is he still going to cut it? And don't get me wrong, there has been the odd clanger in there this season from McFadzean, but on the whole, I think he's been a pretty good performer for Coventry, and you can maybe even make the argument that he's been their most consistent centre-half this season. So yeah, McFadzean, to be fair to him, he's proved me wrong so far this season. When it comes to Derby County, it's Colin Kazim-Richards. Here's what I had to say about him at the start of the season. If we look at their options going forward, they lost Chris Martin and Jack Marriott on loan. Did they replace the goals they lost in that squad? I'm not convinced, with the replacement being a 34-year-old Colin Kazan-Richards. Ah, no. Since I've made that statement, Colin Kazan-Richards has scored 7 championship goals, and Chris Martin and Jack Marriott have scored a combined 2 championship goals. To be fair to him as well, it's not just been his goals, but I think his overall leadership. He has been that player to sort of spearhead Derby going forward. Some top strikes in there as well, and yeah, by far and away, he has proved me wrong. When it comes to Huddersfield, I'm actually going to go for a player that doesn't even play for them anymore. It's Ben Hamer who's proved me wrong the most this season. He was so bad last season for Derby. He was dropping clangers here, there and everywhere. But then he actually started out the season for Huddersfield fairly well, was a much more assured goalkeeper, was starting to finally find his feet there. And then he obviously left in January to go to Swansea to be their backup keeper. And I think that since he's left, Huddersfield have sort of really realised what they're lacking in that department. Don't get me wrong, I think that long-term Schofield will, he could very well turn out to be a good goalkeeper. But at this point in time, is he ready? I don't know. With Luton Town, I'm going to go for Sonny Bradley. Originally last season I wasn't all too sold on him. Luton last season were absolutely hopeless defensively at times, but since the reintroduction of Nathan Jones, I think he's been able to show them up, but that's been thanks to some of their defenders really stepping up. Last season they conceded on average 1.8 goals per 90. This season they managed to get that down to just 1.1 goals per 90, so considerably better defensively. Preston were actually linked to Sonny Bradley in the January window. I think he's been one of quite a few players who have really stepped up for Luton. With Middlesbrough, it's got to be Duncan Watmore, a player who I think has proved a lot of people wrong, myself included. Now, obviously, he really struggled at Sunderland in terms of injuries. That was another consideration coming into Middlesbrough this season. But even when he was fit in those final years for Sunderland, never really delivered to the levels that I think a lot of people thought he would earlier on in his career. So for him to actually get that move up to the Championship, I've got to admit I was pretty sceptical at the time. But with 6 goals to his name already this season, some of which being absolute crackers, I've got to give the guy credit, he's been brilliant. With Millwall, I'm going for Scott Malone. The guy's turned into Roberto Carlos lately or something. Scored an absolute worldie against Preston in midweek, another one a few weeks back against Sheffield Wednesday that was absolutely outrageous, and I think he's exceeded a lot of people's expectations here. Obviously didn't play all too much football last season for Derby, and people just, I think, genuinely thought that the player was probably going to be on the decline. But this season for Millwall, his levels have shot right back up. I think that he probably suits being a wing back for them. He fits into that system that they play. And yeah, you've got to give credit where credit's due. For Norwich City, I'm going to go for Michael Mcgovern. When Tim Krul picked up that injury earlier on in the season, I thought that, okay, Norwich really could be in trouble here. Losing a goalkeeper of that quality, that's where I thought a real rough patch in Norwich's season could come along. But to be fair to Mcgovern, in the 9 starts that he had for Norwich, he actually had a string of really decent performances for them. He came up with some top saves. There was one last minute free kick that he saved against Reading. I think it was an Elise free kick which he just tipped over. Brilliant save. There was another one against Blackburn which was outrageous as well. And so yeah, when he was called upon this season, I actually thought he did a decent job. For Nottingham Forest, do you know what? As of late, Cyrus Christie I think has actually been putting in a handful of decent performances for Forest. It was always going to be a bit of a problem area for Forest this season after losing the quality that they had there last season with Matty Cash. And with the arrival of Cyrus Christie at the time, I think that maybe there were a few raised eyebrows. At Fulham, he was a little bit hit and miss, wasn't he? But giving him credit, to be fair, lately, I think he's been pretty decent. Preston North End, I've got to say Ched Evans, to be honest with you. In terms of what he's delivered for us on the pitch so far, he's by far and away exceeded my expectations of him coming in. A 32-year-old striker coming in from League One who, up until that point of the season, scored 5 goals for Fleetwood, wasn't exactly on paper the most convincing of signings. But to be fair to him, since his arrival, he's sort of given us everything that we were lacking up front. A bit of intensity. He reminds me very much of a Joey Garner in terms of the way that he plays his game. And he has been chipping in with goals as well. That one he scored against Millwall in midweek was a terrific left-footed volley. With QPR, I'm going to go for Charlie Austin. This one would have been a signing which held a lot of sentimental value with QPR fans. However, he still very much needed to prove his worth to this squad, but boy has he done that in an absolute abundance so far. If you look at QPR's form before and after Austin's arrival, it's night and day. Before he came in, we were sort of starting to ask the question that QPR could really be dragged into a relegation battle, because Austin's a bit of a peculiar one really. The last full season that he was in the Championship was of course with West Brom, and he had some real moments of quality in that season, but never really got up to the level that we perhaps thought he might. He chipped in with 10 goals that season, I think 6 of them coming from open play. But so far this season for QPR, he's very much proved that he is still the man. 10 starts, 5 goals, that's a great return. With Reading, I've got to go for Lucas João. Now, in terms of his footballing ability, for me at least, that's never been in question. I've actually said quite a few times on the channel in previous years that he's had it in him to become a 20-goal-a-season striker. What I did doubt with Lucas João was his ability to stay injury-free and fit over a full season. He's done that for Reading so far, pretty much. Prior to this season with Reading in the Championship, in his previous 4 seasons, the most amount of starts that he's ever managed to make is 18. This season, he's already on 27 with 17 goals and 6 assists to his name. His fitness was always going to be the deciding factor for João, and so far this season, he's managed to prove it. For Rotherham, I'm going to go for Victor Johansson, you know, as a player that proved me wrong, purely because I'm pretty sure he made his debut against North End earlier on in this season, and in that game, I just thought he looked pretty shaky, to be honest with you. There were a couple of nervy moments that he had. There was one point near the end especially where he tried to claim a ball and was just left in no man's land. And so from that point onwards, I wasn't all too sure about him, but yeah, he's really gone on to prove me wrong. I think he saved Rotherham a lot of points this season, was massive for them in midweek, so fair play to him. Next up to Sheffield Wednesday. To be honest, I'm scraping the barrel here. I really don't know who to say for Sheffield Wednesday. I'm going to be honest with you guys, because who's proved me wrong from Sheffield Wednesday this season? Not sure if anyone has, to be honest with you. They've all been pretty poor. The players at Sheffield Wednesday who I think do have quality, some of them have shown it at times, you know, maybe Luongo at the start of the season was decent, but he's obviously been injured. I really don't know for that one. Sheffield Wednesday fans, has there been anyone from your club that you think's proved you wrong this season? Let me know. Stoke City, I'm going to go for Nick Powell, you know. I think that he's another player where his fitness has always been sort of questioned and brought into things, but as of right now, he's having his best goal scoring season in the Championship with 11 goals to his name, with that sort of maybe lack of prowess of a Campbell when he got injured. Someone like Powell brought it on himself to really step up in this second half of the season. I think he's done that. Swansea City, I'm going to go Ryan Bennett. You know, the fact that they sold Joe Rodon in the summer, replaced him with Ryan Bennett, and they've actually got better defensively, that caught me by surprise. And don't get me wrong, I still rated Ryan Bennett coming into this season, but the fact that he's levelled up their defence, I wasn't expecting that at the start of the season, I have to be honest. For Watford, we're going for goalkeeper Daniel Backman. Now, when Ben Foster picked up that injury, I think that a lot of Watford fans probably would have been fearing the worst. However, since his introduction into the first team, he's actually done really well, and Watford defensively have actually been better. So currently there's only 3 goalkeepers in the league who have a better save percentage than Backman does. That's Dieng, Begovic and Tim Krul. Ben Foster finds himself 9th on that list. And with 7 clean sheets in 12 starts, you've got to say he's really stepped up. And then finishing it off with Wickham, I'm going to go for Uche Ikpeazu. I think that given that his goal scoring record in Scotland wasn't exactly like the most prolific when we sort of profiled him coming into the club, I was a little bit unsure. But I think since arriving at Wickham, he's actually been a real asset for them, a real handful for the opposition, and he does look like someone who's just a naturally good blend for the club. But guys, there we have it. There was one player from every Championship club, apart from maybe Sheffield Wednesday, that has proved me wrong so far this season. Get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Who from your club has proved you wrong so far this season? But apart from that, that will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So if you did go on to enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, and please do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. Make sure to check out the Patreon, link to that is down below. But apart from that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.